Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morgan, Roth the Motor City Madmouth, and we have ourselves a great broadcast tonight. And I have my dream team here, and anybody that gets in this club, be thankful you did get in it because this is my A team, dream team, whatever you call it. But the theme of tonight's show here will be quarterback carousel part 2/updates, and I couldn't have a better set of people to talk about it than the ones I have. And joining us tonight, obviously, is Steve Balestrieri. Welcome back, Steve.
Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure. And we do have the dream team tonight. It's like getting in Studio 54 here.
You know it, man. I love this dream team. Listen, I'm proud of all the crews I have, but I take a lot more pride in this one because this is my core group. And I talk about core, this is that. But that said, Greg Fuchs, okay, I know you're the brainstorm behind the quarterback carousel too. Welcome back.
Thank you. Nice to know that I'm the brainstorm of something.
Oh, that's okay. You're not only do you do good work here with the writing, but we also know that you have other goals in mind to only expand the Greg brand. With that said, Mr. Curti, I'll tell you, this guy here is a workaholic. We have him on last night on 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. He's going to be on tomorrow with Inside the Pigskin. We're going to talk about that topic a little while. So, Rick, welcome back for round 2 in this with your third appearance tomorrow.
Yep, thank you very much for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, working you good. And, of course, last but not least, my running back, Mel Farr Jr. Welcome back, Mel.
Hey, great to be back, guys.
All right, well, we're going to be keeping Mel and Steve busy over the next couple of weeks, as we always do. With that said, okay, let's get this bad boy going. Just to let everybody know, as we preview this show, Greg Fuchs wrote an initial story about the quarterback carousel 1. This is kind of like a pickup quarterback carousel 2, but a lot more updates along the way. So, Greg, why don't you give everybody a basic overview of what you were looking to do for round 2?
Yeah, round 2, and a lot has changed in a month since I wrote that article. But it was, if you're a general manager of an NFL team, your number one priority is find the quarterback. And it can't just be one of the guys who are good enough to be one of the starting 32. And in my opinion, it can't even be good enough to find one of those guys that's good enough to get you to the playoffs. You need one of the top 10 quarterbacks, the elite quarterbacks that can win the Super Bowl for you, or at least get you to the Super Bowl. Some quarterback that can win 3 or 4 playoff games. A guy who can take you 75 yards in the last 60 seconds of a playoff game to win it. Now, obviously, there aren't 32 of those guys on the planet. And like I said, there's 10, maybe 12 quarterbacks that I think you can sort of call elite, not all created equal. There's probably a half dozen teams that drafted quarterbacks last year where they're in the wait and see mode. That still leaves half the league. And some of those teams like Carolina and Seattle, they really don't have a starting caliber quarterback on their roster. And they know that, and they're looking for somebody. But there's other teams out there that I think maybe kidding themselves. I think this guy's good enough to get us to the promised land, and I don't agree with him.
Well, you know what? I'm going to go over a list of them anyways as the show progresses. But with that said, I have no choice, Steve Balestrieri, but to go with this I told you so moment, okay? I'm sorry, Steve, but I have no choice. This is my opportunity to do it, but in a very good, respectful, colleague way. Just to let everybody know what I'm talking about, Steve Balestrieri and I and Tom Corrin, a legendary anchor out in the Tampa, St. Petersburg area, had a broadcast about maybe 10, 12 days ago, 2 weeks ago or so. And we talked about Tom Brady. And at that point, I went ahead and predicted that Brady would come back. And lo and behold, Tommy, can you hear me? No, I'm not singing, but Tommy could hear me because he is unretired. Not that he was ever retired. At least maybe that honeydew list got a little high. And he said, honey, I need to go back and play some football. And I said, all right, let's take 25 million reasons why you should. And lo and behold, he's going to be playing again. So with that said, he's the first name we're going to lead off. Of course, I have to like Brady because he's the University of Michigan guy anyways. But all right, Steve, that's my I told you so moment. We're going to let you take it from there. Tom Brady is unretired with the Buccaneers. And everybody during the course of the show will have a chance to talk about every quarterback I read off, depending on the order that I switch them around. Take it away.
And you were correct. I was wrong on that one. I thought he was going to stay retired. I firmly believe that. And I said it when we were on the show. And, it wasn't the first time Tom proved me wrong about a couple of things. So, that's the nature of the beast. But before we go any further, what's that cap you're wearing tonight?
Well, it's not a Canadian Football League hat, but it's a cap of the United States of America. So here we are. Okay, we're not talking about Jeremiah Masoli or Warren Moon that used to play up in Canada for the Canadian Football League, Doug Flutie. We're talking about American quarterbacks. Yes, folks. Okay, it is an American hat, and that I actually found at a truck stop that didn't have the quite red, white, and blue, but it did have the flag. So we are on a very patriotic mood since we are talking quarterbacks. So there you have it. And I know you have your old American colors. And again, you do some writing for the military anyway. So if there's anybody more patriotic than you in terms of writing, it's Mr. SB. All right, continue with Brady, Steve.
Yeah, I think that Brady showed last year. I mean, he's still playing at a ridiculously high level. He led the league in touchdown passes, passing yardage. And I think the Bucs were right up there in terms of points scored. So, I thought it was too soon for him to retire, but I mean, it's at this time of his life, I think he can call it quits whenever he wants. But no, I think he'll be just fine next year as well. They have most of the same guys coming back. So I don't know how quick Godwin gets back, but I think the Bucs are going to be just fine.
Well, not only that, Steve, Godwin's coming back from the injury, but Mike Evans, and then they brought in Leonard Fournette, and who knows what else they're going to do. I should point out, though, for a lot of you folks that heard about that auction, would that ball sell for $512,000, I think, or over $500,000?
2 days before he came back. Yeah.
Oh, God, I feel bad for the person that laid it out. I hope he was a rich fellow. All right, Greg Fuchs, some thoughts about Tom Brady.
Well, Tom Brady is obviously not one of the quarterbacks I was talking about earlier, because he's more than good enough to get Tampa to the promised land. Oh, the team's not as talented as it used to be, but he's still one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. I wasn't shocked that he came back. I was mildly surprised. And you can already see from the free agent. I mean, Ryan Jensen came back, Fournette came back, Gronk's probably kind of going to come back. None of those guys would have come back to Tampa if Brady wasn't there.
True. Well, there would have been a bigger quarterback carousel if Tom didn't come back. But I want to make sure that everybody that's watching and listening here, that not only do we talk about the quarterback carousel, but we're talking about updates as well, so you understand where we are in this process. So I want to make sure that's extremely clear. All right, Rick Curti, Tom Brady is on your mind, and he'll be coming out of your mouth.
Yeah, I when I heard about it, I thought, you got to be kidding me, right? I thought he was gone, and I was just like, I mean, my goodness, what do you have to prove? You have nothing to prove. You're the greatest quarterback of all time. You threw for 5,300 yards. You led in touchdowns. You're 45 years old. I mean, what more do you have to prove? So I thought he was gone too. And I keep telling people he's like Jason and Michael Myers. Every time you think he's gone, he keeps coming back from the ashes, and he'll probably throw for another 5,000 yards and another 40-some touchdowns. So I thought he should have retired, honestly, when he won the Super Bowl with Tampa Bay. I mean, that would have just ended it. Like, hey, I went to another team. I won a Super Bowl with another team. I'm not this game manager that everybody was calling me for years and saying that Belichick was the brains. I'm the guy. So that's what I would have done, but I'm not him. But I just wish he'd stay retired. I'm sorry. I respect him. He's a great quarterback, but I just can't wait when he leaves.
All right, Mel, that leaves you.
I'm not surprised that he unretired, and I'm actually glad he came back. I mean, the guy was playing at a high level. He should play as long as he's playing at that type of level. I mean, he's not embarrassing himself. Kind of like how Ben Roethlisberger kind of probably hung around maybe 2 years too long. Tom Brady was playing at an all-time high level. Probably should have won the MVP. I mean, I thought he should have won the MVP last year because of the way he played. They don't. They have protections in for the quarterback now, so they don't get hit like they used to. And then Tom Brady's one of the smartest guys there is out there as far as getting rid of the football. So, he should play until, he said he's going to want to play until he's 45 years old. So it doesn't surprise me that he came back for another year, and he should just take a year at a time and see what happens. I mean, obviously, the best case scenario for him would have been to retire after they won the Super Bowl. That'd be great, but why not go out there and try to win an 8th championship?
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, Matthew Stafford beat him in the championship game, but you know what? Hey, I'm happy for Matt, but we're not even going to go there, But I thought that was, going out nearly on top is what we were going to do, but I didn't believe it because he never sent the retirement papers in, Steve. And I told you and Corin that day, hey, if this guy ain't sending any retirement papers, don't hold your breath. All right, well, we're not talking about a whole show with Tom Brady, but he's the one, as Rick Curti would know with the baseball show, we led off with a great analogy to tie the two programs together. So let's go to the drama king, Aaron Rodgers. So, all right, Mr. Curti. Aaron Rodgers obviously took his time. Davante Adams decided, I wanted some money too, and he kept playing the drama game. We're not talking about Davante Adams, but if there's anybody that held a franchise hostage, Aaron Rodgers definitely did. So take it away, Rick.
Well, I don't know what's up with his Green Bay quarterbacks. We had another prima donna, Brett Favre, who was the biggest drama queen with this, I'm retiring, I'm leaving, I don't know if I'm coming back. And I guess Aaron took notes from Brett Favre and said, well, I guess I'll be a drama queen too. And no surprise, it was all about money for him, and I just think he showed his true colors, that he's all about money. And I'm glad for Davante Adams. I'm glad he just said, see ya, I'm out of here. Good for him. So and I didn't think he was going to go to Denver or go to Nashville or these other places. I was like, he just wants more money, and that's all it was. It's all about Aaron Rodgers, and he's just a very, very selfish player, in my opinion. And he's not going to win another Super Bowl, and so he'll make all this money and go to the Hall of Fame. But it's all about money for Aaron Rodgers, and that's all it is about for him.
Well, and potentially playing in one place his entire career. All right, Greg, I know you're a Miami guy. We'll have a little Miami Dolphins cooking later. But what do you think about Aaron Rodgers, Mr. Fuchs?
Well, Rodgers staying in Green Bay didn't surprise me. What surprises me is before he signed, he supposedly was aware of the Packers' desire to trade Davante Adams. And in light of that makes me surprised that he was willing to come back to Green Bay. I don't care how much money they're paying him, because Rodgers is not going to be Rodgers without Davante Adams. And Davante Adams isn't going to be Davante Adams without Aaron Rodgers. I think they'll lose for both of them. Packers will win the division because they're in a crappy division. Their team is not as talented as it was a few months ago. So they're not going to win the Super Bowl. Even with Davante Adams, they would have struggled. But without him, they're in deep poop.
Okay. All right, Mel, what do you think?
It doesn't surprise me that Aaron Rodgers came back. It doesn't surprise me that he came back with the Packers. I mean, he has them right where he wants them. He's familiar with the city. He's familiar with the team. He's familiar with the management. And they paid him a bunch of money. So it doesn't surprise me that he stayed there. Aaron Rodgers is one of those, he's a generational talent. There's no question about it. I mean, he's a great thrower of the football. He elevates the play of the others around him. And I believe that, there's some receivers in the draft, or they may pick up a free agent, but, he'll elevate the play of the players around him. I think Aaron Rodgers will be just fine. He was fine before Davante Adams got there. He'll be fine once Davante Adams leaves. And I think it's great for Davante. He gets an opportunity to get paid, and he's reunited with his college quarterback. So will he have the same type of numbers in Las Vegas that he has in Green Bay? I don't know. I mean, they don't throw the football as much there as they do necessarily in Green Bay with a talent like Aaron Rodgers. They don't rely on the pass as much down there as they do up in Green Bay. But I think Davante Adams will continue to do well. I believe that Derek Carr's a good quarterback. I mean, he's a great NFL quarterback, and now he has somebody that he's familiar with, and they have some more weapons there with the weapons that they already had, and with the running game that they have, and they got a new coaching staff in there right now, and I think that Josh McDaniels, he will game plan ways to get the ball to his playmakers. So I'm looking forward to see what Las Vegas is going to do. I mean, that's a tough division there. the AFC West is going to be, and it got tougher when Devontae Adams came.
Yeah, so but going back to Green Bay, so I assume that you feel Rodgers will do well. It's just a matter of shoring up receivers. And just to let everybody know out there that when Devontae Adams got traded to Las Vegas, the Packers got a number 1 and they also got a number 2. And I think Mike Tannenbaum was saying they should have held out longer with the franchise tag and they could have got 2 number 1s. But I think Green Bay wanted to rid themselves of the headache. And you can rest assured, I think, Steve, you would probably agree with me on this, that the Packers are definitely not, they'll find a receiver, I believe, in free agency. But since I hear that this is a very deep receiver draft, Steve, that the Packers should find a receiver 2 or 3 in this draft, right?
This draft is chock full of really good wide receivers. I think you can find one from round 1 right into round 4. Guys that can play. And, there's so many good ones out there that they just run like scalded dogs now. It's like these guys are so athletic. So, with the draft picks they got for Adams, I think Rodgers knew they were going to draft some wide receiver help. And, it might be a little slow at the start, but I think they'll be just fine. I don't think they're going to go to the Super Bowl, but they'll be fine.
Now, mind you, Green Bay exceeded the offer that Las Vegas gave Devontae Adams. Not only did they match it, they exceeded the money, but Devontae chose the league. So, that's telling in itself right there. And I think it has a lot to do with the uncertainty of how long Aaron Rodgers is going to play. And he knows what Jordan Love is like, and he doesn't want his career to be attached to or tied to Jordan Love. He doesn't want to sign a long-term deal, stay there. Aaron Rodgers decides to leave after a year, then he's stuck there with Jordan Love. That could be it. He sees him every day in practice, but he knows what he's going to get in Derek Carr.
Mel, I don't think there's any question about what you're saying is a bullseye there. When you keep waffling up every year, you want to know who your quarterback is. And with Rodgers' uncertainty, there's no doubt about it. Now, I should point out, and I did a little homework on this earlier, I believe Devontae Adams was a second-round pick. So
he was.
Right. So, therefore, don't, you find another second-round pick is as good, let alone the fact they're going to draft somebody in the first round.
Again, is it Devontae Adams is that good, or does Aaron Rodgers elevate the level of play of the players around him? He throws a great ball, puts it on the money. It's not. It's going to be in your catch radius. And I'm not saying that Devontae Adams is not a great player. He most definitely probably is. But he came to the right place at the right time with the right quarterback and the right system. A lot of that plays a factor in how well these players develop. If you go to a bad system and you don't have a quarterback, then you're never going to, because you're in a dependent position as a wide receiver, you're never going to really truly be able to show what you're able to do.
No question about it. All right, so we had it pretty easy with the 2 guys that re-signed. Now the show, folks, gets really interesting because as the quarterbacks move, and who would have thought, that the Carson Wentz would go to the Washington Commanders. Now, I'm going to throw a little teaser out there, on tomorrow's edition on Inside the Pigskin. We're going to talk a little bit about the Washington nickname, so just throwing that out there. But meanwhile, we're going to stick with Carson Wentz going to the Washington Commanders. And all right, Steve, obviously Carson's been to 2 places, and now he's going to the nation's capital, isn't he? How is that going to work out?
Not well. It's not going to work out well. I'm not a believer in this guy. In the stories we heard coming out of Indy, he's not a leader. And if you're the quarterback of an NFL team that has visions of a Super Bowl, as Greg pointed out earlier in the show, the quarterback has to be a leader. He has to be somebody that the rest of the roster feels confident that this is the guy that's going to lead us to the promised land. And, from what we're hearing that came out of Indy, he's not that guy, which doesn't surprise me. And now, I think a third team is going to find out that he's not that guy. And, I don't think it's going to end well in Washington for him either.
All right, Greg, what do you think?
Well, I wasn't surprised that Washington traded for him because Washington desperately needed a quarterback. And rumors had it that they made a real big offer to get Wilson from Seattle, and Seattle turned it down. But I put Wentz, Tannehill, and Kirk Cousins sort of in the same bowl. They're all decent quarterbacks. They're going to have decent stats at the end of the year. I mean, Wentz threw 27 touchdowns, only 9 interceptions last year. But none of those three guys, in my opinion, they're good enough to get you to the playoffs. They're not winning a Super Bowl for you. I think a year from now, Washington's looking for a quarterback. They may even draft one this year.
Okay, Rick.
Well, I like Carson Wentz a lot. You know, he's a good guy, great press conference, everything. But yeah, you know, the problem with him, he can't stay healthy for one thing. The guy's made out of glass. He's always hurt. You know, he's always banged up. And I think what cost him his job at Indianapolis, that atrocious game against Jacksonville, where they would have been in the playoffs. I mean, I think he's 0-5 against Jacksonville, which is very strange because they haven't been good in quite a while. So I think, to me, that's what cost him his job. It was an kind of thing. I think Washington wish they held out more because now, you know, they could have gone to Matt Ryan or maybe a Baker Mayfield or someone like that. So I think it was kind of an move, but they were desperate. They needed a quarterback, and but he's not going to take them to. I don't think he'll take them to the playoffs. So I think in a couple of years they'll ditch him and get a quarterback in the draft or maybe in a trade. But he's not the long-term solution at all. And not the capital, unfortunately, in Maryland, the Maryland football team, as I like to call them. So he's not the long-term thing for them. But I hope he does because I like the guy. But the problem with him is that he just can't stay healthy.
All right, Mel, take a crack at this one.
I mean, I was kind of surprised that Indy gave up on him so quick, and I kind of felt bad for Ron Rivera that, you know, his team is the one that ends up getting him. You know, I like Ron Rivera as a coach. I think he's fighting an uphill battle there. I think he's been fighting an uphill battle since he got there. Obviously, we know in this league here, if you have somebody at that position that is capable, then you have an opportunity to go deep into the playoffs. If you don't have somebody at that position, then your chances are slim and none. So I don't, just based off his past, saying Sandy is doing the same things over again and expecting different results. I mean, my dad used to always say a change in environment doesn't change one's attitude. You just can't continue to move this guy around. You just he's your problem. We don't want him anymore. You guys take him. He's your problem. I think that Carson Wentz is who he is. He's proven to be who he is, and he is somebody who is not very accurate. Yeah, he's got a big arm, all that, all that's great, but big arms aren't. You have to be accurate. You got to be able to throw the ball on time. You got to be able to put the guy in their catch radius, and most importantly, you got to be able to stay healthy. The best quality about players is availability, and he's had a problem being available. So I feel bad for Ron Rivera. I hope that they do something, whether it be in the draft or free agency, grab somebody to go in there and compete with them. I know they have the kid that's local from here. I can't think of his name. Been playing the position for the last couple of years. But again, you have to think back. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl, and they won it not because of Trent Dilfer. They won it because they had a great defense and a very strong running game. So perhaps if we can take some pressure, they can take some pressure off of Wentz, and he's just a piece of the puzzle. They can, establish a running game. They've got some pretty good defense. They got some pieces over there to be a very, very good defense. If they can be a good defense, run the football, take some of the pressure off of them, maybe they can make a run to the playoffs. We'll see. They do play in the NFC least division. So that division is wide open for anybody to grab. So let's see how it shakes out. But hopefully he can stay healthy.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about it is, number one, I was at the Jacksonville game when he lost to the Jaguars, and he made some throws that were you didn't want to make those, and he played awful. And of course playing in Indianapolis. I thought he had a chance to go ahead and do well there because he was with Frank Reich, and Frank Reich went out on a limb for him. And even when he got traded to Washington, Frank Reich was still singing his praises. So, I wish him well, but I think Indianapolis is just fortunate to get a couple draft choices for him and have a little draft capital to save face in that whole situation. All right, so, wish him well out there. But let's continue to move on. I have a lot of quarterbacks to get to, and the next one on the list is going to be Mitchell Trubisky. All right, Mel, we left off with you. Now we're going to start off with you with Mitchell Trubisky.
I was never high. I was never high on Mitchell Trubisky when he came out of North Carolina, and I'm still not high on him now. I feel bad. I hope Mike Tomlin. I hope they do something and get some competition in there. I understand he was at the pro day of Malik Willis yesterday. I don't know if he's going to be there with all the buzz around him now. I don't know if he's going to be there when the Steelers pick. I hope that they do bring somebody else in there. I don't think obviously that Dwayne Haskins is the answer. They did draft the other kid that played a little bit of time when Ben was hurt.
Yeah, Mason
Rudolph. I think they drafted him in the second round, right? So obviously he has some talent. He has some ability. Maybe, if they have a good quarterback competition and let the best guy come out of there and become the starter, then we'll see what happens. I mean, Mike Tomlin's done, he's done a great job with Ben last year, with Mason Rudolph a couple of years ago. But obviously we know the way the NFL is set up right now, you have to have that guy there in order to have a deep run into the playoffs. If you don't have that guy, then you need to be very sound on defense, and you need to be able to run the football very effectively and put your quarterback in situations where it's always short and manageable. If you expect him to do things like Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, then you are setting yourself up for disappointment and failure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. For some reason or another, I have a lot of confidence in the Steelers organization because they've been very stable. And, of course, they have Harris, right? Najee Harris there. But then they lose J.J. Smith-Schuster. Smith-Schuster. So, but again, right. So, but we've talked about this being a heavy stacked wide receiver draft. We'll see what happens. All right, Rick. Yeah, so I'll be intrigued to see what happens with Pittsburgh. All right, Rick.
Yeah, I'm with Mel. I was never high on Mitchell Trubisky. I live in North Carolina. I saw him play a lot, and he was an move for me. I just thought, they drafted him too high. I didn't think he'd be all that good. Maybe, with Buffalo and sitting behind the bench, maybe he, now he's been in the league a little longer. Maybe he's improved, but is he the answer for the Steelers? No, I don't think he is, and I don't think any of those quarterbacks are. Neither is Mason Rudolph. So this is going to be Mike Tomlin's toughest year. They said that he hasn't missed the playoffs. Well, he might this year because I'm not a fan of either quarterback. I've heard rumors that they're possibly maybe looking at maybe bringing in Baker Mayfield. I have no idea, but I'm not a big fan of Mitchell Trubisky, and I think this might be I think Mike Tomlin and the Steelers are going to miss the playoffs, in my opinion.
Rick, I'm going to bring up Mayfield a little while because I've heard stuff like that, but we'll get to it in a moment. Greg, what are your thoughts about Trubisky out in Pittsburgh?
I don't think Pittsburgh was going to go out and make the big move, give up draft picks, or spend a bunch of free agent dollars. So I think they view him as more of a game manager. They should have a good rushing attack with Najee Harris. They got a great defense. The problem is, look at the other quarterbacks in that division. Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and Deshaun Watson. You're going to be in some shootouts. Mitch Trubisky is not winning those shootouts. So I wouldn't be surprised if Pittsburgh gets their first-round pick on a quarterback this year.
Yeah, I'll back that up. I know that the Steelers are going to draft a quarterback. The question is who's available when they get there. All right, with that said, Steve.
Yeah, I'm going to echo what everyone else said. I've never been really high on Mitch Trubisky, but if there's a place where he could go, I think that would be the most beneficial to him. I think that's with Tomlin and the Steelers. I think they know what kind of quarterback he is, so they'll game plan around that. They do have Najee Harris, so they're going to try to get the running game going. They have a good defense, but they have pieces on defense. They need to tweak that defense quite a bit, especially against the run. But I think Trubisky's in probably the best place he could be right now. That's a very stable organization. I do think they're going to try to draft somebody, but by bringing him in, they're not going to rush that person too soon.
Yeah,
So
no question about it. Everything you're saying, Steve, is really, number one, the price is right, but he went off the board pretty quickly too. So I believe he could be potentially a bridge quarterback. But to Trubisky's, to give him the benefit of the doubt, though, I thought Matt Nagy was going to do a much better job developing him, and he did get the Bears into the playoffs. And I was actually at the Jacksonville game when, they took on the Bears. So I don't know, for some reason or another, I don't think Trubisky's that bad. Is he a guy? This is his best chance to prove that he belongs in the NFL. And again, where he's going with that organization, Steve, as you mentioned, I think like Wentz, he's on his third situation, although actually he was a backup with with the Bills. So, you got a couple guys on their third rodeo. So it'll be interesting to see if this is a make or break time.
Where he has some wheels, they'll try to incorporate that to make things a little bit easier for him, because they won't have Juju Smith-Schuster this year. So I don't have high hopes for him by any means, but at the same time, I think he's in a really good situation because if he can succeed anywhere, it'll be there.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't underestimate his mobility. All right, we'll move on to good old Russell Wilson. I know we all have strong opinions on that. So Mr. Opinion's nodding his head. So now you can take your nod and start talking about it.
I love it. I think it's great. I'm glad for Russell. He had to get out of Seattle, and now Seattle's trashing him by saying, he's the one that instigated the trade. And I'm really surprised that Seattle's doing that to him. And Russell Wilson just smiling like, say, that's okay. I think it's great. I love what George Patton has done. He's hit a home run with the coach. They needed an offensive coach. They got a great quarterback now because ever since Peyton Manning's left, the Broncos have averaged less than 20 points a game. And so they had absolutely no offense. Their defense has always been solid. It's just the offense. They needed a quarterback. And you think one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, John Elway, would have done better than that. And he just absolutely whiffed and missed on that. So big thumbs up to George Patton on getting Russell Wilson. Yeah, they gave up a lot, but they got a proven winner there. And he looks great. I love this press conference. He wants to play another 10 years, win 2 or 3 Super Bowls. And I think it was a great fit for him, great fit for the Broncos, and Seattle got a lot of draft picks, so it's a win-win for both. But I love this move by the Broncos.
What do you think, Mel?
I've been around the National Football League all my life, and obviously you guys have covered it a lot longer than I've been around. And I've never seen so much movement, particularly at that position, in all my life. I think for Russell Wilson, it's a good opportunity for him because I think Seattle has to hit the reset button. You get to a point where you have diminishing returns, and I think that's what they were looking at in Seattle. And if somebody was willing to pay a king's ransom as Denver did, and they feel that they are just that one position player away, then it makes all the sense in the world for us to move on from him. We were talking about Russell Wilson so much prior to this, and I'm like, he's not even available. I mean, why are we even talking about him? I didn't think that Seattle would get rid of him because Russell Wilson is the team. I mean, he's the reason why they have been, in the playoff hunt, or at least mentioned as a playoff contender since he's been there. Other than last year, where they really didn't play all that well because he really didn't have any help. And I think Seattle realized that, man, we need a lot of pieces in order to be able to be competitive again. And I think they're going to go back to Pete Carroll's roots, playing very good defense, and he wants to run the ball, and he wants sort of a game manager at that position. But I think it's great for Russell Wilson. He gets an opportunity to play with a team that believes that they are one player away. He does have an offensive-minded coach there, and I think they're going to continue to build on the things that he does well, and it should be very exciting. Again, we talked about the AFC West. I mean, it's going to be an exciting division this year. I mean, whoever comes out of that division probably is going to be the favorite to win the Super Bowl.
Steve?
Yeah, I think it was a great move for Russell Wilson. I mean, we've talked about it on this show. I mean, we thought Denver had a really solid football team, and the only piece they were missing was the quarterback. And now they have a really good one. I think for Russell Wilson, like Mel was just saying, they had diminishing returns there. I think it was getting stale up there for him because he hasn't really been himself for the last couple of years. And granted, he didn't have the pieces around him, but at the same time, I don't think he wasn't the Russell Wilson that we've come to know the last couple of years. So I think this will recharge his batteries, and that division is stacked right now. So it's going to be every week is going to be fun to watch that. So Seattle has a lot of work to do, obviously, but Denver now they feel like they can compete for the Super Bowl.
All right, Greg.
Well, I'll go back to how we started off this broadcast. It's a general manager's number one responsibility to find that Super Bowl quality quarterback, one of the top 10 elites. So in that essence, I'm surprised that Seattle traded away Wilson because he is one of those top 10 guys. Pete Carroll can't be real excited about looking at his roster right now and seeing a gaping hole at the quarterback position. And Denver said, yeah, we need to go out and get one of those top 10 quarterbacks. I'm not care what we're going to have to pay. And 4 high draft picks plus 3 other guys who are likely going to be starters. That was a heavy price to pay. But when Wilson lines up for Denver this year, the fans are going to be happy with the results. That Denver team will be competitive, but the AFC West and the entire AFC, extremely competitive. You're going to have some really good teams in the AFC who do not make the playoffs this year.
Well, I mean, Drew Lock was the guy that got sent to Seattle. I wish Drew well. But when I saw that Nathaniel Hackett went into that press conference as enthusiastic introducing Russell Wilson, more power to him, especially when everybody was under the impression that Aaron Rodgers would be going to the Mile High City. But yeah, there's no question that Denver got it right with the quarterback and with Russell Wilson, and I wish him well there. So I think we can all pretty much agree that Denver made out like bandits, and we'll see where they go. They have a pretty good team. They just made it a whole lot better. All right, as we continue galloping through these many quarterbacks, and I know we're going to be in for a very thorough show, Rick, because if we weren't thorough last night, we're going to have another one. So we know everybody will be patient because you're going to learn a lot tonight. Stay with us, folks. We got a lot of good stuff here with us. But that said, since we're in the Miami area, we're going to lead off with Mr. Miami, Greg Fuchs. Now, I know he's not a starting quarterback, but Teddy Bridgewater, the local kid from Miami, gets to play for his hometown team. And if by chance Tua Tagovailoa gets hurt, one of his targets, just so you know, Tyreek Hill, was traded for 5 picks. Gets a 4-year contract, $120 million, $72.2 million guaranteed, with an average of $30 million per year. But safe to say, Tua, if you don't produce, Teddy Bridgewater is looking down your throat. And by the way, Teddy Bridgewater did play for Denver. So with that said, Greg, you can lead off about pretty much for the most part Teddy Bridgewater being the backup. And if he becomes a starter, he's going to have Jalen Waddle, and he's going to have, obviously, he's going to have Tyreek Hill, among others. All right, Greg.
Yeah, I was surprised they signed Bridgewater only because they gave him $6.5 million guaranteed, another $3.5 million in incentives. That's a lot of money for a backup quarterback. Money aside, should be a good mentor to Tua. If Tua gets injured, which has been his history, as in terms of a backup quarterback coming into play, you probably can't beat Bridgewater, but Bridgewater is just an average starter. So I like the signing overall. It's not my $10 million, but I think the Dolphins are going to give Tua a lot of rope. I think he's going to have to play real bad for Bridgewater to get in there other than injuries.
Steve?
I'm going to disagree with Greg on this one. I think they gave him that money for a reason, that they're not completely sold on Tua. And now there's no doubt whatsoever they've surrounded him with a ton of talent. on the fence about this, but I think before the season's half over, we're going to see Teddy Bridgewater.
Okay, well, that's fair. All right, Rick.
Yeah, I like it. I've always been a big Bridgewater fan. I was happy when he was at Carolina and never had the opportunity. He was there 1 year and he shipped him off, and that was unfortunate. He struggled in Denver. I've always been high on him. I think it's a great fit for him. I'm not sold on Tua, and like Wentz, he's always hurt. And that's the question mark with Tua, is that he can't stay healthy. So I think this is a great opportunity for Bridgewater because he's got people surrounded by him. So this is just tell Tua, stay healthy. You got to stay healthy. You need a big year from us because we got you all these weapons. And if he struggles, it's bye Tua and hello Bridgewater. So I like this by Denver. He's a good quarterback. Some people say he's a game manager, but he's got weapons around him. So I agree. I think we're going to see Bridgewater sometime in the season.
What about you, Mel?
If the Dolphins, because of either injury or because of bad play, have to go to Bridgewater, then they're in trouble. I don't care if Randy Moss, Jerry Rice, and Tony Gonzalez came back and played. It doesn't matter. Bridgewater is who he is. I mean, he played in Minnesota with Adrian Peterson, and he saw 8-man boxes all the time, and still, to me, Bridgewater is an average quarterback at best. He's an average quarterback at best. He's shown exactly who he is. I've never been high on him. And the reason that I've never been high on him is because, there's certain throws that you see the elite quarterbacks make that he just doesn't make. I mean, the guys don't run wide open in the NFL for the most part. When the Rams had the greatest show on turf, guys were running around wide open. But for the most part, guys aren't wide open. You have to throw guys open. And he's never shown me the ability to be able to do that. And so that's why I'm not very high on him. If they have to go to him, they're in trouble. Hopefully, with the weapons that they just added down there in Miami, Tua will show what he's capable of doing. Otherwise, Miami's going to have to hit the reset button because Teddy Bridgewater is not the answer. He's not going to get you to the promised land.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about the whole thing is Mike McDaniel was brought in there to fix Tua. Brian Flores didn't want him, and they brought Darrell Bevell in to work with him. So I definitely believe that Tua's on a short leash, and if he gets hurt, you're going to see Bridgewater. And we'll find out what Teddy's really all about because there are a lot of weapons. But I like the signing as a backup. I'd be a little bit nervous if Bridgewater takes over, but you never know. I mean, if he gets an opportunity with the right supporting cast, the Bridgewater signing could be better than we think it is. But we can all agree that Tua's under a boatload of pressure for sure. So, all right, let's go back up to Minnesota. And we got a lot more quarterbacks to get to, but we're going to get to every one of them. And we're going to talk about Kirk Cousins, Mel Farr.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins, man, he just got another payday, another guaranteed contract. Minnesota is they're going to be competitive, but Kirk Cousins is probably not that guy. He's a good NFL quarterback, very serviceable. You can win a lot of ball games with him. Is he going to be? Is he finally going to get this team over the hump? I don't know. They play in a tough division, number one, and they got Aaron Rodgers there. Aaron Rodgers is a much better thrower of the football than Kirk Cousins is. He's going to need a lot of help. He's going to need defensive help. They do have a strong running game, but they do have a new system coming in there. They got a whole new coaching staff. What kind of offensive system are they going to have? So we'll just kind of have to wait and see. But Kirk Cousins, who he is. He's a very serviceable quarterback. He's been able to get a guaranteed money for the last 7 years. They can't seem to find somebody out there better to replace him. So if you can't love who the one you want, you might as well love the one you're with. And that's what they've done.
Rick?
Well, I think Kirk Cousins' agent needs to go into the Hall of Fame. He made a killing on that. I mean, a lot of people were scratching their heads with that. He puts up great numbers, but he's not going to win a Super Bowl. He's not that guy. People have compared him to Dak Prescott, where he puts up big numbers in the regular season, but when the playoffs come, he disappears and struggles, and he just can't. They can't advance. So I just think it was a desperate move by the Vikings. It's like he's not a quarterback, but he's a lot better than most of the quarterbacks that are out there right now. So they gave him what he wanted. Like I said, his agent needs to be in the Hall of Fame right now. I vote for him in because he did great with that. But he's not going to lead them, and they're in a tough division. Green Bay's going to win that division no matter what. So I'm not, they overpaid in my opinion, and I don't. He's not going to win him a Super Bowl or go very far in the playoffs with Cousins.
All right, Greg.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins, he's got some talent. He'll put up some decent stats. He's not the guy to take you to the promised land. When you got Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and Dalvin Cook, you should be almost leading the league in points scored. Maybe the new coaching staff comes in with a different way. Possibly. I'm not optimistic because Cousins has been in the league now, 6-7 years? I think he is what he is, and I think Minnesota is one of those teams I talked about at the beginning. They're kidding themselves if they think their current quarterbacks get them to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, all I can say about Kirk Cousins is we should put him in the Bobby Bonilla category, and because obviously Bobby Bonilla has a contract for the ages. He's gotten a lot of guaranteed money.
Ken Griffey Jr. too.
Yeah, no,
he's the sixth highest paid Red right now.
Oh, I know. Yeah, but I do know that Bobby Bonilla definitely got a lot of money, and I always love seeing that anniversary there. So he's got a lot of guaranteed money. I know Steve Balestrieri has a comment on this, and I'm sure he'll be back with us in a moment. But, you Mel, want to add anything to it?
About Kirk?
Yeah.
I mean, he's leveraged his hand every step of the way. He's bet on himself, and he's come out on top. He bet on himself with Washington when they franchised him, I think, twice. And finally, he got to the point where he was too expensive, and he was attractive to the Minnesota Vikings. They felt that they were just that player away. I think they had I can't think of the guy. Case Keenum, I think, was their quarterback over there, and they felt that they're a player away. And Kirk, you can do things with him. Can you get all the way there? I'm not certain, but I've always liked Kirk Cousins. I always thought he was a gamer. I thought he was a gamer at Michigan State. He came in the same draft as Robert Griffin III. He was the last one that was left standing. I mean, he works extremely hard. He gets the most out of his talent, and we'll see what happens. You got some weapons. He's got some weapons around him. They got a good, strong running game. Need to get strong on the defensive side of the ball. They just signed the linebacker from Green Bay, one of the Smith brothers, and so we'll see what happens.
Okay, well, when Steve comes back, we'll address him on that. We'll move on to the next quarterback, and that happens to be Tyrod Taylor. I know he's a backup. Oh, there's Steve. Okay, Steve. I knew you had to take a moment for that, so why don't you go ahead and talk about Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, I just want to echo what everyone else was saying. I mean, especially Rick. I mean, his agent has done wonders for his career. I mean, his guaranteed money is way up there. And, if you're Minnesota, you have to ask, what are they seeing? I think they feel like he's better than anything else that they can get at this point. But at the same time, as Greg pointed out at the very beginning of the show, I mean, is he one of the guys that's going to take you to the promised land? I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Well, with that said, we were going to get into Tyrod Taylor. Steve, go ahead and talk about Tyrod Taylor being the Giants' backup to Daniel Jones.
He's another guy I think we'll see this year. I'm not sold on Daniel Jones. I know that his situation hasn't been the best, but I wasn't really sold on him when the Giants drafted him. So Tyrod Taylor has some limitations, but I think he's a pretty good quarterback. He's been successful where he's played. He's not going to be the answer, but I think we'll see him at some point this year.
All right, Greg.
Yeah, echo everything Steve just said. Daniel Jones, the Giants have done almost everything in their power for him to fail. Terrible offensive lines, and they've also had incredibly bad luck, if you want to call it that. Their receivers and Barkley have been injured a lot the last 2 years. But I've also seen Jones play enough. He misses wide open receivers, and it seems like anytime he gets hit, he fumbles the ball. So I am not a big Daniel Jones fan. I'm rooting for him. Seems like a decent guy. He's got some raw talent. I think at some point in the season, Tyrod Taylor will be their starting quarterback.
Rick.
Yeah, he went to Duke, so I'm familiar with him living in North Carolina. I just thought when he got drafted, he was drafted way too high. I wasn't sold on him. I'm still not sold on him now. But, I mean, he's been set up to fail there. I mean, you had Joe Judge as your head coach. I mean, Jason Garrett as your offensive coordinator. My goodness gracious. So they had set him up to fail, but he's just not that good of a quarterback. And Tyrod Taylor, it's an move. I've never been really high on Tyrod Taylor. He's one of those bridge quarterbacks, but I think like in the middle of the season, I think Jones will get benched, and you'll see Tyrod Taylor. And I think the Giants are going to go. They have to go draft a quarterback or get a quarterback in a trade or something because they need a quarterback because they have been really bad for quite a while. Mel,
again, if the Giants fans, whether it be because of injury or because of poor play, have to see Tyrod Taylor, then they're in for another disappointing season. Tyrod Taylor is not the answer. We know who Tyrod Taylor is. Can he win you some ball games? Yes, he can. Can he get you to the playoffs? I doubt it. Can you make a long, deep run in the playoffs with him? Absolutely not. Can you win the Super Bowl with him? No. I'm not real high on Daniel Jones either, but with that high draft status, and they kind of did him a disservice by drafting him so high, probably 3 rounds too high. With that high draft status comes a lot of expectation. And unfortunately, his first few years in the league has been with very, very poor coaching. So you kind of have to give him a clean slate and see what he does this year. Hopefully he can stay healthy. Hopefully they have a healthy Saquon Barkley that can take some pressure off of him and establish a running game. Hopefully they will establish a running game this year and see what happens. And you hope you never have to see Tyrod Taylor, and you hope that Daniel Jones lives up to that draft status. But if he doesn't, Tyrod is not the answer, and then New York is hitting the reset button once again and in the market to draft a quarterback.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about this is Brian Daboll's your head coach. Did a great job in Buffalo. You have to hope that he can fix Daniel Jones. If not, Tyrod Taylor, to me, is an insurance policy. All right, let's move on to Deshaun Watson. We know that he's getting $230 million guaranteed, and Houston got an awful lot of draft capital for him, and we don't even know what the discipline is going to be for him. But nevertheless, I like to think with everything that Cleveland gave up to be the savior of this franchise, Steve Balestrieri, that, and Deshaun we trust, but the question is when we trust him. And the only thing I know about that contract is he's going to get paid $1 million the first year and an awful lot of money. So the Cleveland Browns protecting him with the contract for the first year, knowing what the civil lawsuits could end up being and the punishment and all that. So I don't know. Is Deshaun, I'm just going to ask you basically a straight question, Steve. Is Deshaun Watson the answer in Cleveland? Because we don't know what's going to happen with his playing status. We're going to make this an easy yes or no question around the horn.
I honestly don't know if he's going to be the answer because, one, he hasn't played in a year. We don't know if he's even going to play this year. I mean, he still has those 22 civil suits going against him. And, and Cleveland is fully expecting him to be suspended for at least part of the season. That they kind of factored that into his contract with, the $1 million base pay, which will come out if he's suspended for any length of time. But, I know he's very, very, very talented. We've seen that when he played for the Texans. But, this stuff that's going on, people think it doesn't take a toll. It takes a toll on people. We don't know if he's going to be that guy. The talent level's still there. But we don't even know if the league's going to let him play this year. And then if he's out of the league 2 years in a row, I mean, what's he going to be like next year when they have to pay him a boatload of money because every cent of it is guaranteed? And, you said in Deshaun they trust, but not with your daughter. That's for sure.
All right, Greg, Fuchs, give us a basic answer. Is Deshaun Watson the answer in Cleveland? Yes or no? With a little comment, because that's all this is really worth, anyways.
He is the long-term answer. He's not the answer in 2022. I said a year ago he wouldn't take a snap in 2021. I'm saying right now he's not going to take a snap in 2022. When these 22 cases get resolved, stuff's going to come out. NFL and their sponsors are going to be put in a very awkward position. And I think he's suspended for the entire year.
Rick?
Long-term. I mean, who is a long-term answer for the Cleveland Browns? How many quarterbacks? There's like 32.
Well, don't worry. I got
1999.
I've got your follow-up for that. Just give me the answer I'm looking for, okay? Is he the answer? Don't worry. Great minds think alike. For you guys looking for an acronym, GMTA, great minds think alike. But we'll stay on point with Deshaun Watson, okay? Is he the answer right now, Rick?
No, because I agree. I don't think he's going to play. They got that. Remember Ben Roethlisberger? He was accused of some similar, and he got suspended, even though no charges were filed against him. So, and this is 22 allegations against him. I don't think he's going to play. And Cleveland is who we think they are. They go in desperate mode. They're very desperate right now. And no, he's not the answer.
Mel?
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously an upgrade over who they had. And so, I know we've watched what Deshaun did in college. The one thing that I question is his maturity. I think he has to do some growing up. And I think if he's able to do that, I think he's definitely the answer there in Cleveland.
All right, well, the only thing I'll say about it is, how do you spell the word fleece job? Because I think Nick Caserio got a heck of a haul back for a guy that didn't play last year. So I think the Houston Texans in the long run are going to make out like bandits with the draft capital they're going to get. I really do. But I think Deshaun Watson, heck of a quarterback. Yeah, when are we going to see him on the field? TBD, as we say in the media, okay, to be determined. And how long will it be? We all know it may be a while, depending on what plays out. So I think that if I were going to give an edge to the early returns in the trade, the Houston Texans fleeced the Cleveland Browns. With that said, we'll stay on the Cleveland theme, and the guy that will back him up is Jacoby Brassett. So I have a feeling he's going to be getting the bulk of the stacks. That's why I stopped you, Rick, okay? Knowing I was leading to Jacoby Brassett. Now you can pick up your thought about Jacoby Brassett.
Another Bridgewater, he's a good quarterback, but he's not the answer, he's not the franchise quarterback. And so, maybe he can play well, and, because they're low, they got on paper, Cleveland looks great. He's got some weapons there. So, it's just the question mark is how long is Deshaun going to be there? And I think Brissett will be the quarterback this whole year. So if he can do a good job and keep the boat stable for Deshaun to come back next season, we'll see what happens. But he's not the long-term answer. He's just there to kind of keep things stable right now.
Yeah, it's an insurance policy. All right, Greg, give me some quick thoughts on Jacoby Brassett.
Good backup quarterback, not a good starting quarterback. Wasn't overly impressed with the games he started for the Dolphins this year. One thing he's gotten an advantage is Cleveland might have one of the best offensive lines and running attacks in the league, so they're not going to count on him to throw 40 passes a game.
Well, Steve, if anybody knows Jacoby Brassett, you ought to know. He played in New England once upon a time.
Yeah, and I'm with Greg on this. He's a very good backup. I don't think he's a starter. He's not going to take you, deep into the playoffs. But, he's their insurance policy this year. And, he'll play well. But he's not going to light it up.
Okay, Mel?
Yeah, I'm kind of along the same lines as everybody else. Jacoby Brassett is a good pro. He's a solid backup. He's had some starts in the NFL. You can feel very comfortable with him if you need him for 1 or 2 games, but if you need him for an entire season, you're probably in trouble. The one thing I will say about Deshaun Watson is he has to kind of look at this thing as he has to make a business decision, and you got to kind of look at it like an insurance company would look at it. How much is this going to cost him? Yeah, you got your legal team, they're dealing with all this stuff, and you're supposed to be going out there and working out and getting yourself ready mentally and physically for the season, but now he just got a big contract, $230 million guaranteed. It seems to me that he should be trying to settle. And even if you got to pay a little bit more, so what? Okay, you got $230 million guaranteed. Let's get this bit behind you. Find out what the punishment is going to be from the NFL. Get that behind you. And now you can move forward. Now you can truly move forward, not have to worry about this stuff from the past coming back to bite you in the behind. Get it settled. I don't know who's advising him, but they need to get these suits settled,
right.
Pay the women, get it settled so he can get on with his life.
All right, what I'm going to do is we're going to talk about 3 more starting quarterbacks just to let you guys know, and 3 more waiting to see before we call it a night, okay? You guys on board with the half a dozen we got? Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to go to Jameis Winston. He got a 2-year deal to stay with the New Orleans Saints. I'll comment on this one first. I'm glad that Jameis Winston is staying in New Orleans. I really do. You know, they took a chance on him, you know, when he left Tampa. Now he deserves an opportunity to have the full-time job. I just hope that Jameis Winston can stay healthy. I think the New Orleans situation is a right move for Jameis Winston. Please stay healthy, Jameis. I think that's the right spot for you. All right, right, Steve?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great spot for him.
What about you, Greg?
I think it was the best landing spot for him. I always like watching him play because he throws a lot and he likes to wing it downfield. If I was a fan of the team he was quarterbacking for, it's the old ABC, Wide World of Sports, the thrill of victory and agony of defeat with Winston. It's a roller coaster ride and the emotions there.
Rick?
Yeah, I think it's a good fit for him. I think that was a team that really, really wanted him. You know, I know they tried to go after Deshaun Watson. That didn't work out. So they got Jameis back, and so hopefully he can stay healthy.
Mel?
I think it's the only place for him. I think it's a great, I think that once they fell out of the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, they turned to Jameis Winston. There's somebody that they know and they're familiar with. He's familiar with them. I think it's a great situation for him. I believe that Jameis can do well there. Jameis has won big-time football games, not necessarily on the pro level, but at the collegiate level. So we know what he's capable of doing. And I'm glad he gets this opportunity. He was off to a great start last year before he got hurt.
All right, I want to go to Marcus Mariota. Here's a guy that is reunited with his former coach, I believe, Steve, at Tennessee. Is that correct? So therefore, Atlanta was a good spot for Marcus Mariota. I'm glad that Marcus gets a chance to lead. His only issues over the years have been injury problems. Steve, take over from there.
Yeah, with Matt Ryan being gone, obviously Atlanta had a huge hole to fill there. I mean, Ryan had been their quarterback, I think it was 14 seasons. So,
right.
That's a tremendous leadership void to fill. Is he going to be the guy? No, but I think he's going to be your bridge guy. They're going to look for a quarterback in the very near future, but I think he'll generate some excitement. He might win a few ball games, but I think Atlanta needs to find themselves a new franchise quarterback.
Well, he got a 2-year contract, so everybody knows when you get a 2-year contract, that's what you call a bridge. So I'm with you, but I'm happy that Marcus gets another opportunity. I just hope the guy can stay healthy. I believe he lost his job because he couldn't stay healthy to Ryan Tannehill, who never gave it back. With that said, Greg Fuchs, Marcus Mariota, is he a fit in the big Atlanta?
He's going to get an opportunity to prove that he was good as people thought he might be when he got drafted. I think he's one of those guys better off being a backup quarterback. He's as serviceable as a starting quarterback. One more thing I want to add. I want to pivot back to Tua before I forget.
Sure.
I do not think Tua is the long-term answer in Miami. I hope to hell I'm wrong. I think a year from now the Dolphins are going to be looking for a quarterback, but I will also say Tua is a better quarterback than Teddy Bridgewater ever will be.
Okay, well, that's fine. All right, I appreciate you getting it out while you had the opportunity. But back to Mariota. So what do you want to say about him again? Repeat that again.
I think he's a better backup than he is a starting quarterback.
Fair enough.
I'll be curious to see what he does, though.
All right, Mel, he's in your Marcus Mariota is coming to your city. So what do you think about Marcus Mariota making an impact to your city?
Yeah, this is Atlanta had to reset. They have the most dead money in the cap than any team in the league than any team's ever had. Matt Ryan's, I think, counting $48 million. They still got part of Julio Jones. I think they got about $18 million or something like that of Julio Jones salary. I think they got about $65 million in dead cap money that they're, so they're resetting. I mean, at some point in time, when you continue to kick that can down the road, and unfortunately we did have COVID and that kind of messed up the cap numbers a little bit. And, because you're anticipating the cap's going to go up every year to a certain amount, and you figure you can deal with it at some point in time. Well, they can't. They couldn't. They no longer could deal with it. They tried to get into the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes and see if they could get Deshaun Watson. I don't know how they're going to make that work under the cap, but they're in reset mode. And Mariota's cheap. He's a serviceable NFL quarterback that has a lot of starts underneath his belt. They want to put out some semi-competitive team out there for the fans, so the fans will continue to come out there and support the team and watch the team. But this year is a throwaway year. I mean, you get rid of Matt Ryan. He's been the face of the franchise. Matt Ryan came to this city at a time when the Falcons were reeling. Michael Vick had the dogfighting investigation. The coach came in here and left mid-season.
Yeah,
Bobby Petrino.
Yeah, I mean, it was just in disarray. And Matt Ryan came in and stabilized this franchise and has been nothing less than a professional on and off the field. Now, there's a little fool's gold with Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan is a product of the system. He's a great he puts up great numbers because Atlanta throws the ball a lot and he's had great weapons, but he was a product of that system the year that he won the MVP that year and they went to the Super Bowl because he had Shanahan there. And even Shanahan has his limitations because he made mistakes in that game in the Super Bowl. When they were up, all they had to do was run the ball and they were in Super Bowl champions. Now everybody, so they got kind of spoiled by that particular year that Matt Ryan and what he did and the MVP numbers that he put up, but they lost the offensive coordinator. Not only did they lose the offensive coordinator, they lost the quarterback coach. Then they bring in, I think it was Dirk Cutter to try to run that offense, and he doesn't know what he's doing. I was never really high with him. But anyway, having said that, I'm not real optimistic about what the Falcons are going to do this year. This really is just a throwaway year. Get past all this cap problems that they have, and then next year they'll emerge and they'll try to draft a quarterback and reset this thing.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about the whole thing is Atlanta will definitely be drafting a quarterback. Not that this quarterback class is great, but they will be looking for developmental guys. So now that we'll transition over to Matt Ryan, and he's the last starting quarterback that we're going to talk about. Then I have three more I want to get to. And I'm going to lead off with this one here. I believe that Matt Ryan is going to look to try to do what Tom Brady and Matt Stafford did, win a Super Bowl title someplace else. And I'll tell you what, going to Indianapolis is the best place he could. When Matt Ryan decided to go to Indianapolis, it's because he knew, well, all right, ready to move on from me. I get it. I can reset when they held back his bonus. So you knew there was a point of no return once they made the decision to try to go after Deshaun Watson. And for Matt Ryan, more power to him. He landed in the best place that he could end up with the Colts. You got Frank Reich over there, who's going to finally get the quarterback. And the Colts have been patient. I know this is their seventh quarterback, and now I believe 7 years. It hasn't been right since Andrew Luck. But I am so happy for Matt Ryan. He carried himself so well in Atlanta, class act. And even the owner went ahead and said, you know what? The guy's going to the Ring of Honor, and he hopes he gets to the Hall of Fame. He's a heck of it. He's an iconic person for that franchise. So I am so happy that Matt Ryan is going with the Indianapolis Colts, and he's going to have an awful lot of good offensive weapons there. Not going to get any because I know we're going to run out of time anyways. But I'm happy for Matt Ryan. I hope he does really well in Indianapolis, and more power to you for the job you did in Atlanta. I'm going to transition over to Mel. All right, go ahead and give us a brief synopsis, okay, about Matt Ryan in terms of his status with that, and what do you think he's going to do in Indianapolis?
Well, they did Matt Ryan a solid. I was thinking about it when the trade came up, talking about Deshaun Watson. I said, man, they're going to trade Matt Ryan to Houston? Boy, man, that's not very nice. I mean, this guy's done a lot for the franchise, and that's how you're going to say thank you to him, by shipping him to Houston, to that dumpster fire? So when the trade didn't go down, obviously, there's probably some bruised feelings. And I think they've been talking about it for a while, that Atlanta they're in a rebuild mode right now. They have to reset everything because of the cap situation that they find themselves in because of the previous regime. And so they're doing Matt Ryan a solid, and they're going to absorb that cap hit this year, get from underneath all that, and start with a clean slate next year. I think it's a great situation for Matt Ryan. Obviously, Indianapolis feels that they're one quarterback away. We know they have a very good running game. We know they have a good offensive line. They play defense very well. They're in a division that they can win. And I'm happy for Matt Ryan that he's going to get the opportunity. Obviously, it's a business. You have to understand it's a business. It's tough to see him leave somewhere where you probably thought he would retire a Falcon, but because of some things that some bad management of the cap, he's a cap casualty, and he ends up in Indianapolis, and it's a great situation for him. I'm happy for him. I think he'll do well. Will he win a Super Bowl there? AFC is stacked. It's tough. I mean, even if they do win the South, I mean, at some point in time, they're going to have to play somebody out west. And whoever comes out west, I truly believe will probably represent the AFC in the Super Bowl.
All right, we'll go up I-85 to Rick Curti. All right, so give us your opinion on Matt Ryan.
Oh, I love it. I think it's an upgrade from Wentz. Matt Ryan is durable. He's solid. His leadership is great. He stays healthy. He's very consistent. And, this is a team he wanted to go to. And I'm glad the Falcons saw that, hey, he's been serviceable for 14 years. He took us to a Super Bowl. He's been great. He turned our franchise around. We're going to do good for him too. And he went with the best team that's possible at the playoff team. They just needed a good quarterback. And it's an upgrade from when they got rid of Wentz, I was really surprised. I'm like, who are they going to get? And they really hit a home run with Ryan. He's got about 2-3 years left. He looks great. His press conference was phenomenal. I love it. I love the leadership. And they're going to go to the playoffs, and they're going to do well. So I'm happy for Matt Ryan, and I hope he does win the Super Bowl.
All right, Greg.
I agree with Rick in terms of it's a good landing spot, and he's better than Carson Wentz. I don't think Indianapolis is done tweaking their roster. They still need to add some receivers. They still need a left tackle. But they got a good defense. They got Jonathan Taylor. They're not going to ask Matt Ryan to do the heavy lifting like he did in Atlanta. That said, when I was determining who are the top 10 or 12 elite quarterbacks in the league who could take you to the Super Bowl, I did not have Matt Ryan on that list.
Steve?
I think he's in a great position. Indianapolis has a solid football team. They should have been in the playoffs last year. They have a great running game. They have one of the best running backs in the NFL. I think Ryan, this will re-energize him as well in his career. So I think he's in a great spot. I think they will go to the playoffs. I don't think they'll represent the AFC.
All right, so now we're going to go to the waiting to see category. And just so you know, folks, okay, if you want to hear the broadcast, you can hear it on Spreaker, Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, or subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, or you can find it at www.southfloridatribune.com. 3 more QBs to get to, guys, and then we'll call it a night. First of all, we can make this one a very easy one. One name that hadn't been mentioned yet is Gardner Minshew. I think he's a guy that could conceivably go somewhere. So, this story is far from done yet. If he gets a starting opportunity, I think there's 2 places that I think we can all agree Carolina and Seattle need help. So with that said, Rick Curti, where do you think Gardner Minshew is going to fit into this thing when it's all said and done, if he leaves at all?
I think it's between I would be surprised if the Panthers get him. They seem to keep getting quarterbacks every single year. I'm not sold on him, to be quite honest with you. I just think he's just like all flair and all that stuff. And I'm not – he kind of reminds me of Baker Mayfield in a way. I think he's an okay quarterback. I think probably a backup, but I wouldn't be surprised if he lands up in Carolina, to be quite honest.
Greg?
Is he a free agent, or is he still with –
No, he's still under contract. He's a guy that can be tradable.
I think he's better off being a backup. I'm not a huge Jalen Hurts fan, so I think Philly might be comfortable having Minshew in reserve. But if Philly was to trade him, Seattle and Carolina are desperate for quarterbacks.
Steve?
I think he's a backup. I've never been sold on him. I think it's a lot of flash and not a lot of dash.
Mel?
I don't see anybody trading for him. I don't know. Why would you? I mean, there's a lot of guys I can think of. I mean, that I would rather have than Gardner Minshew, and I'm definitely not going to give up any draft capital for a guy like Gardner Minshew. He's a backup. That's what he is, based on where he was drafted and how he's played. So yeah, I think he's going to stay exactly where he's at.
Yeah, I think if Gardner Minshew goes anywhere, it's either Carolina or Seattle. But yeah, I think he's probably going to be the backup. But you never know; those are the only two spots that we have. Two more QBs to get to. Jimmy Garoppolo, Mel, where's he going, if anywhere?
Well, we know he's leaving. It's not an if anywhere. It's just a matter of where is he going to go. And that's a great question. Could he go to Carolina? I don't know. Possibly. I mean, they have a need there. Are they willing to give up the draft capital necessary? I mean, with the trades that have happened, I mean, his stock has risen, as far as the draft capital that would be required to get a quarterback like him. I mean, he is a Super Bowl quarterback. So what would it take to acquire a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo? I don't know who would be willing to give up that capital. I don't know, but there are some teams that could obviously use him. Carolina's one, Houston's another team, Pittsburgh. When none of us are real sold on what they have going on over there. Giants, maybe, Dolphins. I don't know where he ends up, to be honest with you. I have no idea. I watch my phone every day to see where he is going to end up.
Rick?
Yeah, I see Seattle. They really need a lead there. I've never been sold on Locke at all. So they definitely need a quarterback. I think that'd be a great landing spot for him. I know he's had a shoulder surgery, so that might be like an issue with some teams. But I see him going to Seattle.
Greg?
I'm guessing the other quarterback you're going to ask us about is Baker Mayfield. I put both these guys in the same bowl. Seattle and Carolina are the two teams that are desperate for a starting quarterback. I think one of them ends up in each of those places. Some of those teams that Mel rattled off, is Garoppolo an upgrade over the Mitch Trubiskys and Daniel Jones of the world? I think so, but I don't think those teams are going to trade for him.
Steve, and now that you mentioned that, Greg, I won't ask you about Baker Mayfield because you already tipped your hat. So, all right, Steve.
I love Jimmy G. I got to be around him a little bit, up in New England. But, for him to be successful, everything has to be just right. If his protection breaks down, he makes a lot of poor decisions with the football. And he's hurt a lot. I just don't see the Niners trading him to Seattle. I think if he goes anywhere, it'd probably be Carolina.
Well, I'll tell you what, Steve, I'm with you.
So.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, there's no way he's going to Seattle because they're not trading within the division. If he does go anywhere, I believe it'll be Carolina. And you know what? Mel brought up Houston, although I doubt that one. But you know what? I'm going to make the biggest prediction of them all on Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he's not going anywhere. That I think that he'll be a backup quarterback as an insurance policy to Trey Lance. Maybe, maybe not, but that's my gut feeling that you never know, how things are going to go. If you don't get what you want for him, you might as well bite the bullet. He did take you to the playoffs last year. So I'm going to say Jimmy Garoppolo is not going anywhere. How does that sound? And the final quarterback of the night, since Greg Fuchs doesn't have to mention anything about it, okay, because he's already tipped his cap, we'll go to Baker Mayfield. All right, Rick.
Yeah, he's probably going to go to Panthers. I mean, Panthers have just been awful, and with their decision making, getting quarterbacks. They're still paying for Bridgewater's contract, and I knew Darnold would be a bust, and been saying that for years. So he'll probably go to the Panthers. But the problem with Baker is that he's just so immature. He needs to grow up. He needs to stop having this massive chip on his shoulder, and just he needs to grow up. And that's why the Browns didn't want him, because they said they wanted an adult quarterback, and it's just his stock has dropped so much. I mean, they dumped him for a guy who didn't play all season. You gave him all this money guaranteed, 22 sexual allegations on him, and you don't know if he's going to play this year, and you still dump Baker Mayfield. So his stock is completely dropped. And I mean, he might. I don't know. Maybe it's Seattle. Maybe I don't know. I really don't want him to come to the Panthers. I love to see Jimmy Garoppolo come here. So I guess I'll say Seattle or maybe Pittsburgh.
Well,
the problem with Baker and Jimmy Garoppolo is that everybody knows that they're available because Shanahan's or San Francisco has made it known that this is going to be Trey Lance's year. And Jimmy Garoppolo is available, and obviously with the Deshaun Watson trade, we know that Baker Mayfield is available. So their stock has dropped as far as what they can receive as far as compensation is concerned. And with Baker, his stock was already low, even though he was the number 1 overall draft pick. And so there aren't many places that I don't think there's a lot of favorable opinion on Baker Mayfield around the league. Now, what I have heard and what I would love to see happen is I heard that Baker wants to go to Detroit. And I think 2 kids would do well in Detroit. They got a child as a coach.
You can take them.
And he got a child as a quarterback. And I think that dumpster fire might be exciting in Detroit. And I'd love to see that happen. Now, the other thing I've heard is that if Baker is for some reason released and clears waiver wire, that Pittsburgh would pick it up. And that would be intriguing as well to see Mike Tomlin with Baker Mayfield. But Baker Mayfield is an upgrade over Mitch Trubisky, in my opinion. But I would love to see Baker Mayfield go to Detroit.
Mel, I was going to say that, but you know what? You fall into the GMTA stand for great minds think alike. So you know what, Steve? Before I include you in this, okay?
I'll bring a bib for him.
Mel has come a long way in this business, let me tell you. So what I'm going to do to even help Mel out a little bit, because he already took the words out of my mouth, if that's even capable. The only one capable of doing it is my wife, Candy, who probably finishes half my sentences anyways. Here's the thing, okay? All right, Steve, we'll get to you in a moment because now Mel got something started here, okay? Number one, I was surprised he didn't go to Houston to think that you had a Stafford Goff kind of thing. But then again, Houston was smart enough to take the haul of picks. But you know what? We're going to go back to what you said, okay? Pittsburgh would love nothing better than to take Mayfield. And if Mayfield could stick it to the Browns for letting him go to a rival, that's one thing. But here's the thing that will Mel a genius, okay? The guy that he worked with was John Dorsey with the Cleveland Browns, and he's in the Detroit front office. So if there's any wild card that would get Baker Mayfield to Detroit, that would be it. And furthermore, just because the Lions re-signed David Blau and Tim Boyle, they had to do it. And I think the Lions are ultimately going to draft a quarterback anyways with a 32nd pick. I don't think there's a quarterback high enough that they take earlier. But you know what, Mel? We both agree, and I'm not saying anymore. And I'm going to give Steve Balestrieri the last word about Baker Mayfield before we wrap this broadcast up. Thanks, Mel. I appreciate it. Once again, folks, you don't learn anything in this show. GMTA, great minds think alike. Go ahead, Mel. That's our motto. And I'm sure we might be thinking the GMTA theme tomorrow when we talk about the Washington nickname. Go ahead, Steve. Take it away.
Yeah, I was nodding my head when Mel was talking because I'm like, damn it. He stole my thunder. I was going to say, I've heard the same thing that Baker might end up with Detroit, and stranger things have happened, and I'm fully on board with this. I think that's a really good chance of happening. So we'll see, but boy, his stock has fallen pretty far in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't get to go to Detroit, I would have put my money on Seattle. And I know that when I got a story about Mayfield, Baker hater, I actually tagged the Seattle people on Twitter. But that was before this came out, when Mel decided to take the words out of Steve's mouth and my mouth. And you know what? Okay, folks, you could be entertained by what we're doing. And Mel had the moment of the night here at the very end as we've gone through 9 million quarterbacks. And we hope that we haven't lost our audience. We hope we haven't. If you did, well, I understand. But you know what? Nobody will say we don't give you good information. and every so often a little entertainment. But anyways, we're proud of what we bring, no matter how long it takes sometimes. But the subject matter dictates, and I'll never, ever apologize for coming up with something that requires a bit more attention. And I feel we did the best we could to provide that. With that said, okay, as we wrap up the show, Greg Fuchs, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
I write my articles on www.southfloridatribune.com, and you can find me on Twitter, gfuchs at Gregory Fuchs.
All right, Rick.
Contact me on my website at www.charlottebats.com. My email address is cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com. My Facebook page is MLB Charlotte. I'm also on there on Charlotte Bats Baseball. I'm on Instagram at Charlotte Bats. Twitter is Charlotte Bats Baseball. And I'm also on LinkedIn under Rick Curti.
All right, Mel.
All the social media websites at Mel Farr Jr. That's LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And follow what we have going on here in Georgia and also in Michigan at melfarr.org for the kids.
All right, Steve Balestrieri.
Yeah, on Twitter at SteveB7SFG. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn at Steve Balestrieri. I'm also a national security columnist for 1945.com.
All right, before I get to my information, I'm going to declare Mel Farr Jr. the MVP of this show tonight. Mel, you got the MVP of tonight's show because of what you just did to us with Baker Mayfield. So there you go.
I hope Garoppolo comes
Hold on that one all night.
I want to see Garoppolo on the Panthers.
You're the MVP anyways, but there comes a time when they have a Mel moment, and we're talking about Baker Mayfield, and you stole everybody, Steve's and my thought. You're getting the MVP at least for that reason. And I don't think you're getting a debate of anything. Don't worry. We normally don't declare MVPs, but we are tonight with that moment. So, Mel, take it as it's worth, okay? You've come a long way with the broadcasting business, and you're the MVP tonight, and that's all I have to say about that. As far as how we get a hold of us, I'll go over a couple of things really quickly. And if you're watching here, you can see a lot of our stuff on the on our ticker as well. But if you want to hear the audio version, Spreaker, Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcast, YouTube channel, go ahead and subscribe for nothing. You get all the notifications about when we're on. And, of course, go to www.southfloridatribune.com. You can also connect with me, Scott Morganroth, on LinkedIn or on Twitter at Tribune South. And if you want to email us, feel free to do so at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Well, we hope everybody's enjoyed this edition of the Sports Exchange. We certainly had a lot of information. When you're talking about quarterbacks, there's an awful lot of information. And my goal was we didn't want to leave anybody out that we thought was pertinent. So we hope you track what we've talked about tonight. But meanwhile, on behalf of Greg Fuchs, Steve Balestrieri, Rick Curti, Mr. Opinion, Mel Farr Jr., the MVP, and me, Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth, thank you very much for joining us. We'll catch you the next time out. Have a great night, everybody, and thanks again for joining us. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.